Hey everybody and welcome back. I am Titan9 and thanks for joining me on this edition of Meta Meditations. I'm very excited about this deck. I've been practicing with this one for a while. In MTG, where I come from, I did often trend towards control-y style decks. Blue-white were the colors that were often controlling in that format, but black could do that too, and red. And I'm hoping that the purple color in Gundam, which feels very similar to black in a lot of ways in Magic, I'm hoping that opens up some control spaces too. But I've been putting off playing any blue-white decks in Gundam because, frankly, the mirror matches look so heinous. Every event I go to, I got to watch one because they always went to time, and they were always the last people playing and going into turns, and they're just looking at each other, and it just looks so boring. So I've been putting off doing it. But then, a little bit ago, I've been seeing some lists come around with some sword strikes here to get a little earlier turn action, plus you get to bounce back some 2 HP guys, so that's good against the aggro. Plus, occasionally, a demi-garrison or a GM, they're pretty much the same in this deck list. For some aggro-y stuff too. I think a list very similar to this was first popularized by the famed deck artisan in Gundam TCG, Levi. I've been playing around with one Freedom, taking up one of these 2 slots. I've played around with going down or one or both of these for an unforeseen incident. This used to be a white base. I've switched it to a Nail Argama. And this is where I've kind of ended up on this more tempo-y version of blue-white. It has a lot of things that I liked about Control and MTG. You sort of find your game plan, you find a way to dissemble what your opponent's doing, and then you win when you're good and ready. But it also has, for longtime viewers of the channel, a lot of my early success in the game has been with aggro. And so I've earned a fondness for aggro in the Gundam card game, at least as of this format and the beta format. And this demi-garrison and even the sword strike, which I know doesn't look like it since it doesn't come down until turn 4 at the earliest, but they have a lot more of an aggressive game plan. When I play against a more standard blue-white, I get to go faster, well, instead of just like we sit staring at each other, so I'm a big fan of that. This offers nice trades more than a Zawart does against aggro decks. Or that didn't quite phrase that right. A Zawart and this are both trading with your aggro units. Technically, your Zawart gets to stop an attack, but this has more utility in other matchups or in other board states where you don't care about blocking as much and you want to be the beatdown. I even test against some aggro opponents, and sometimes it's right for you to be the beatdown in the later early turns of the game. And the card draw has just been helpful. If I have this too early, I could pitch it to an Overflowing Reflection. Sometimes your curve isn't like magnificent, so sometimes you do kind of have an awkward play where maybe playing this and a demi-garrison is right. You could also play these 2 as well, and you can get 3 cards in a turn. I've liked Banager. Aside from just being able to rush with these great unicorns and drawing cards, it's just a 2/2 body, which is great on a lot of cards. Like, I've played it on a Lafrith, and then Amuro can't tap it. You can play it on a Razel to make sure you bust a base. Obviously, Kira can do that too, but that +2 can make a lot of a difference. It still works on your Isle Strike, and you've got an untappable thing as well. A lot to like about Banager. The Nail Argama over the white base, what I came to realize was you mainly want white base against another blue-white player, but Nail Argama can do just fine in that matchup, but also lets you tap down a lot of early opponents' cards. Like, with aggro, one of the tough things about them, if you're not finding enough blockers, and we don't have a ton, we have these and we have these. We mostly rely on our tempo plays, Mu, Sword Strike, to get rid of them, or even Unicorn Destroy mode to tap them down, but it can be useful. You get rid of their units, but then they play 2 or 3 more, and they could kill you on the crackback, and you don't have a way to block them all. Well, you can tap them. When they burst into this, it also taps a unit if it's not the last unit attacking you that causes it. Like, that's been helpful for me in a number of games as well. I had an opponent play a Shenlong, baby Shenlong against me, and I got to play this and tap it and attack it before it could attack me because I didn't Wu Fei it. So the Nail Agama, I think, solves more problems than our white base does. And even in that matchup, we're kind of the aggro player anyway, so we don't want to plan for that game to go long. We want to kind of wrap things up quickly. I can beat my blue-white opponents 5, 6, 7, just because the unicorn things can get a lot done. Your units are a lot faster than theirs. You can bounce their Zawarts with your Sword Strikes or Hakum and Demians. Like, there are ways you can kind of try to outpace them. And that's the mindset you should be having in that matchup anyway. That is not the matchup we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at a matchup that has traditionally been very hard for the standard blue-white builds. And that is Meteor Control. And this deck is undergoing some changes as of right now, as the players try to figure out how to deal with the growing number of aggro, but this is sort of an amalgamation of the average cards I'm seeing in that deck list at the moment. So I thought this would be a pretty standard thing. I didn't want it to be slanting too far aggro because this was the version of the deck that blue-white was having the most difficulty with. So I wanted to utilize this list to show you how making the more aggressive version of blue-white can kind of help push things through. For those unfamiliar with the Meteor deck, I'll go over quickly. You basically want to use your bird modes to ramp, and eventually Death Scythe to ramp bird mode into Death Scythe into Wing Gundam. Originally, they were playing 4 of these to really maximize that. Some of them were playing First Contact. I was never a fan of First Contact. I never liked it. I thought it was a waste of time card. I would never want to play that on turn 3, even if it wasn't such an aggro-heavy format. The card just makes me want to rip my hair out, so was not a fan of that card. They've been starting to drop that anyway, which I think is smart. They've gone down a little bit on Death Scythe because it doesn't help super-duper much against the aggro mirrors, and they only... You could go down on duos. My list isn't optimized here. I have been tinkering with this a lot. I haven't played this deck in paper just yet, as I'm trying to figure out where I want to settle with it. Some people have been adding more blockers. Some people have gone away from the Death Scythe and duos altogether and switched it with some Wu Feis. That's a topic for another video. This is the baseline of what we're going to be working with here to see how the matchup goes. And as always, with Meta Meditations, we're going to be doing best of 3. And we're going to randomize who gets to start the game to simulate what a real kind of battle would be like. But thank you for staying with me for this long, and let's stay tuned for the games. All right, so we are going second. So with this hand, we could play our Demi-Garrison first. We do like to see these early aggressors. That being said, we don't have a lot else going on. This could tap down a Zawart, but a Lefrith's probably a bigger problem for us anyway. We don't have like a good follow-up unit. Even if we had like the Sword Striker being on the second player, I wouldn't hate that super much. We could go that into this into a Sword Striker, and we've got some early pressure, but they can, once they get to their late game, it's just better than ours. That's why Meteor has a good matchup against the old version of blue-white, because their top end is just better, and they just hold their defenses down until then. So, if one of these Banages were something else, I think it'd be a little better. I wish we could keep this hand, but we can't, so we will take the mulligan. Hopefully we don't get something worse. Okay, this is pretty good. We got some great early turn plays here, some nice aggression. This was a damn good hand. We don't really need to... I think sometimes people play overflowing a little too early. There's nothing here I want to get rid of at the moment, and I definitely don't need to blow my EX resource looking for something, and I'm going to get to play this Razel later anyway. And there's no reason not to attack now, or we can get one in to chip away at this base. If something happens to one of our units, the other one can finish it off, so we have that going for us. Probably we'll play this Corsica base and see how that goes. I guess I could bounce that Zawart next turn instead. So let's not do it here. Let's keep our EX resource active. So if okay, now might be an okay time to Overflowing Affection. See if we get anything else useful. But probably we're going to bounce that Zawart and deal with the tempo loss that way, and probably could discard the Corsica base in that instance. It is a more expensive card. We do get a 4-2 out of it, but in this matchup, getting the 2 1-1s will often be more helpful, because then we get to go wide around their blockers. It's less good if they find that 0-6 base, the underground one. But it is value for us here. So let's start with that overflowing. Because next turn I want to be able to Unicorn Benager. We're going to draw a card and be able to break through. That definitely will break through a 0-6 base. So I think I just want to get ahead on that one quickly. I'd be more open to getting rid of the resource had we not drawn the Benager to rush it. Show of Resolve might be too slow. The Corsica gives us a unit, gives us 1 unit. So we play that, but that one we're not going to play. No, that one we would play on turn 5. Right, because on turn 4, we're going to do our Benager plan. We could even get an extra attack now, because then we don't have the resource for that. This is interesting. Okay, I actually think I'm going to get rid of the Show of Resolve. I know we said there's a lot of value for this, but let's think about it, right? We are going to get a card from this base. We get 2 cards here. But we also will get a unit. So we lose a card, but we do get a unit. And we theoretically have an extra defense, but that matters a little less in this matchup. Especially with the way the game's been going so far. So I think it might be better to get rid of the Show of Resolve, because we can play a unit and possibly play something else small if we find that too, off of our next draw and the card in here. Alright, let's do that, because we want to be the aggressor, right? We want to aggress. So let us do that. But first we're going to tempo them out. Bounce away that Zawart. Alright, let's finish off this base. Okay, we've got that there. So now this wing, okay, I had the unforeseen incidents in here. I've swapped them with striker packs. So we don't have to play around that anymore, but some of your wing opponents might have them, so keep those in mind. It wouldn't have mattered here so much other than to eat an attack from this demi-trainer. But that wouldn't have changed really anything that we would have done. Alright, there's that 0-6 base that we're going to be able to unicorn away. The Lefrith is unfortunate, especially with the duo. We do have another unicorn, though. Well, we'll be able to clear out the base and get rid of this Lefrith and pilot. On turn 5, they have nothing super scary. They could bird mode with hero into one of our units. But if they kill our unicorn, we can just get our Benager back. We could discard the Corsica at that point. And then play another unicorn next turn. And then even also play a destroy mode. Oh no, we can't, because we'll only have 5 resources next turn too. But still, extra attacks. There's no good reason to try to bait it into an attack here. And a good player probably wouldn't block anyway. So let's just go in with the unicorn, and then we can finish off the base and not have lost one of our units in the process to keep up that aggression. We're going to draw a card. Overflowing Affection, that's alright. Away the base goes. If they don't want to block here, they do, but if they didn't, and that base was gone, I would throw both of these units into there, and then they'd probably trade with the Razal, but if they wanted to outvalue me and kill out the demi-garrison, that's fine with me too. And again, we don't have to worry about unforeseen incident. I don't think it would have changed. I guess it didn't matter, they were tapped out. Just always want to keep that one in mind. Okay, so they could still bird mode us here, but they wanted that duo. They have another base. They only have 4 of these, and a Lefrith. Oh, and they had the hero too, though. Okay, well, we can still do the same game plan and even crash in with another unicorn once they kill this. So that actually worked out for us rather nicely. They block, they kill it. They're going to return. I actually may discard this. No, yeah. The only thing this will stop is a Zawart, and we've already gone through. No, we know they have one in hand, though. And that might be more valuable at this point than the extra unit, particularly since we're going to get them 2 shields down. Even if they Death Scythe next turn, like, we still have a fair amount of cards, and we can't rush this out next turn. Okay, I will get rid of the... Or maybe... No, this lets me search for cards and is pretty cheap. We could find something for our Kira next turn. We could find that Isle for the Kira. Bounce it. Bounce whatever they play. Alright, Corsica goes. Unicorn, Banager, draw a card. Another Kira. Alright, I guess that we can send that off to the farm. Okay. And we're going in. Ah! Is it worth it to attack and lose my Razel? I think not, because we have ways to deal with this token. We can tap it with the Nail Argama. We could also bounce it if we find that Isle Strike. If they want to aggro me and attack my Demi Garrison, that's totally fine. So, okay, let's end the turn. I think I will pitch one of these Kiras if they kill my Unicorn to keep the Banach. Ah, a third one! Well, that's annoying. Yeah, Kira goes. Okay. Wow, 3 of them in a row. And a Wing Zero about to come down next turn. Okay, I can't play my Banager anyway. If I find a Unicorn... No, because that only... that doesn't put me in a great position either. Okay, let us... Okay, yes. So, here's what we could have played the Nail Agama, see what that card is, definitely tap that down. But, if we Overflowing Affection... Find that Isle Strike, of which there are 4. We can still play it, play the Kira, bounce the Isle Strike token. That will one-shot the base, and if this last card is not a base, we will be able to kill them with our remaining creatures, or units in this game. So let's hope we find it. We did not. What should we discard? We know we're going to rush with our Unicorn and Banager, so anything we discard won't be super relevant for next turn. I don't really want to play this Razel, though, into their wing. That would feel bad. But it would be nice to have after the board cleans up. So would this... Show of Resolve to, like, draw extra cards because of it. I can actually play that this turn and the Nail Argama. I guess we will get rid of this Overflowing Affection. So let's see what our Nail Argama gives us. We will rest that guy. The 3/3 blocker token. Okay, they've had some good... That burst striker pack was good against us. Obviously, 3/06 bases in a row, very good against us. But we do have the ability to rush some units in the coming turns, and we are just about full up on our shield area, so we're not in a bad position here. Theoretically, I could play this Lefrith, but not really much of a point in that, I don't feel. They could trade with both of my units next turn if they don't have a Wing Zero, but again, we can still rush through. And as long as they don't have their 4th base, we're in pretty good position to win on follow-up turns. So let's finish off that base. Our early aggro units, very good at clearing out these 2 bases. It's unfortunate we have to use 2 attacks against them, but that's why the Meteor player has them in their deck in the first place. Let's draw our 2 cards. Okay, we do have a rush unit for Kira and a rush unit for Banager. If we can... If they play that Zaward again instead of the Wing Zero, we can bounce that back to the hand, and then we only have to find a way to get through this Isle Strike. But let's see if we're getting Meteored or not. Our Isle's still eluding us. Well, that's a good sign. that they had to start there. It looks like they will be planning on playing another Death Scythe, and that will kill one of our units. And there's the... No, duo. Okay, well, that is great news for us then. We still have this 3-3 to contend with. Let's see if I can get the blocker to bite. They shouldn't, but let's see if I can do it. So, I am on wingtable.net. It's a great place to just sort of like throw together some quick games and get a handle on like what are good opening hands to keep. Get a sort of a broad feeling of what cards are doing in your deck and how a matchup is turning out. You obviously want to do testing in person or on something like Zumbo Sim against real players to get that nitty-gritty. I do have the Patreon for Wingtable, which means my AI is stronger. I have noticed it kind of getting better. This version of it self-learns a lot. There is a thought... this actually might be the right play, because they're likely to die to any unit I kind of throw down next anyway. I could have also been aggressive on my end and played the destroy mode first and tap down the Isle Strike in my attack. The downside of that plan is I tap it down, I hit this card, and that turns out to be a base, and now I can't win this turn, and I've committed one of my rush units early. Maybe that's me playing a little scared unnecessarily. I could believe that. But I don't mind as I'm trying to just throw things against... They're already building up a big board. Me trying to like slowly build up something that they can just wing zero later anyway. I don't know if that's super helpful. So I don't mind kind of testing these waters and holding things back until I have more information. Because right now, I've got to thread a needle. They get to just slam, attack. I have to be a little more precise. So let's see what this base is here. Because this amounts to the same thing anyway, right? Like, I guess if that is a base, I would probably go in with my Sword Strike Gundam anyway. The one downside to that is I have to bounce this back to hand, but anything they can do with 9 resources, they can do with 11, so not the end of the world either. We don't have to worry about unforeseen incidents. Let's just play... Let's let Kira kind of win the day here for fun. And we'll attack the player. There you go. Sure, -2. Okay, so they did have that wing zero in hand. They had the 2 Zawarts, but decided to kind of go bigger on the board. I don't know if that's correct in this current turn. We were going to get to bounce that Zawart if they chose to play that anyway. Did they draw cards recently? Is that what? No, they didn't. So they were just kind of sitting on these for a bit and wanted to go bigger. I think with how few shields they had, that was not the correct play, though I don't think it's inherently or like obscenely incorrect, I guess is how I would phrase it. It is weird they didn't want to play this that turn. That would have killed 2 of my units. I think that not playing this is the bigger misplay. But maybe they drew that later? Did they draw off of something recently? They found the duo with this, didn't they? Oh well. But you could see how we wouldn't have been that aggressive before. We probably have the Razels, but we wouldn't have those little demi-trainers. They would be theoretically a Zawart, and a Zawart can attack the shields like that. That wouldn't have been ideal for us, and their blockers and the 0-6 base would have really slowed us down. So it was nice to have that early pressure to be able to get through three bases and a striker pack. But we had the Nail Argama coming in big there instead of a white base. Like, making those tokens wouldn't have mattered that much, but getting those attacks in, that made all the difference, especially since they had wing 0 and 2 of these in their hand to really gunk up our works. All right, let's go to game 2. All right, similar-ish. Well, this is all just like top end. This actually isn't great. We need to be more aggressive, especially since we are now player 1. We don't have that EX resource to jumpstart like a Razel or something like that early to get some early damage in. These can let us go wide, but even then, like, they're playing, their 3-2s and 2-4 blockers, and they are not that far from an Isle Strike to bounce them as well. The Spinazier Unicorn, but that's going to take way too long. We definitely have to mulligan here. Last time our mulligan ended up great. This one's pretty good. Pretty good, all right? We will just end the turn. We have nothing to do, but we have Demi-Garrison and Overflowing Affection. We can pitch this bigger Unicorn to try to find something nicer. Yep, big unicorn can go. I guess we need blockers a little less, but these can survive wing 0 and are just units to keep putting on the pressure. We don't have to think of these as blockers. We can think of them as attackers. We can do the Razel next turn and then 2 Lefriths the following turn. And then worst case, if they want to crash into our Razel with a wing 0 hero, with a bird mode wing and a hero, our Lefriths could block that. Let's discard the big unicorn. We don't want the game to go that long, ideally, but they might have many bases for us again. Going second is obviously most people want to go second, but the wing deck particularly wants to have the extra resource. It's weird that they burned it there on it. I have seen players do it before, depending on what's in their hand. To them, it feels like free because they're just trading one resource for another. But with no pilot on, maybe they're saving the pilot for next turn, but I'm not sure what the ultimate goal is. Maybe they just want to trade off here in the aftermath. We have another Lefrith. So theoretically, to keep from trading, I could play Lefrith now, but then I'm less aggressive on the following turn, but then my Demi-Garrison definitely survives. They play as a Wart. I'd rather have the Demi-Garrison because I wouldn't attack with the Razel. If they play a Lefrith, I would definitely attack with the Razel. What we could also do is just not attack with this Demi-Garrison right now and not even have to worry about it. So let's do that. If they play that, they did have the pilot for it. So they are wanting to go aggro here. They might not have done that had we attacked with the Demi-Garrison, or they might have still played the duo and just ate our Demi-Garrison for free. They didn't have a better turn play. They don't have any blockers, so that's the good news for us here. We can no longer moo away their bird mode. Not that we'd probably want to, but it's just not an option anymore. There is a consideration for playing this Show of Resolve and trying to find something that pairs with our Kira, or a Banagher for our Unicorn for next turn, but I think just flooding the board is probably what we want to do since we are the aggro deck, and I can worry about Show of Resolve when I definitely need something specific, or I've just run out of cards. So our Razel gets to clear the space in one hit. And it basically amounts to the same as what our attacks would have been like last turn. We would have cleared a base and done one, but we don't risk our Demi-Garrison in the process. If they want to trade with our Razel, that's fine. We took 2 cards and 2 shields away from them. But I guess also we do have our Lefrith. We could sacrifice one of those instead, and it might be correct to do so. So we have the heavy hitter Razel. These two are great at taking out underground bases. Together, the Razel and Demi-Garrison. So something to keep in mind. If they want to get rid of the Demi-Garrison, I'm going to let them. Oh, nope, I pressed that wrong. Because the Lefriths also have 2, but they have more utility. They have a higher defense. They also can block things. They have their own Lefrith. We can't bounce that one. So we're not going to be able to clear their underground base at the moment. We can't bounce it with Moo either. This maybe is a good turn for Show of Resolve. Alright, well, let's get that Lefrith out of the way with our Razel. Oh, they didn't block there. That I find rather spicy. I guess they want to have a blocker that can block for more turns, so they're going to block one of my Lefriths? Yeah, okay. So this is good. So I feel less than... They might have another one in hand ready to go. I only have 4 of these in the deck. There aren't going to be a lot of 1-cost units, so I'm not going to get to like Show of Resolve into 2 Demi-Garrisons very likely. We've already gone through 1. But I could just play this other Lefrith instead anyway, and then have a blocker if necessary. They're not... They could bird mode hero me, but they can't death scythe me for at least another turn. Yeah, let's use this turn to show, because finding a pilot for Unicorn or a unit for Banagher, even if we find the Sword Strike, Moo can go on that. So there's a lot of good stuff we can do. And then we'd be allowed to block this Lefrith if they don't attack with it on the following turn. Ah, there we go. Let's draw our 3. Okay, we do have the Banagher. I like that. We do have the Nail Argama we could do also instead. I do think I want to try to keep my Razel alive to have that big booty, so we are going to just maximize our resources and play the Lefrith. We could have played the Demi-Trainer and held up the Hawk of Endymion bounce spell, but I don't like it particularly against either of these targets, especially now that we have our Nail Argama to deal with the Lefrith if they restand it. We could also deal with a if they... Sorry, everybody. We have a way to tap down the Lefrith if they don't attack with it. They're obviously going to restand it on their turn. And it can also deal with a Zawart should they play one of those. Let's end the turn. We can also hold up Moo and Unicorn if we wanted to do that instead. Oh! I'm going to let them... I'm going to let my but then their duo can eat it. Oh, but my Razel doesn't kill it anyway. And my Razel would kill their bird mode duo. So let us block. We still can tap this next turn. Do they have hero? They do. They can kind of... Okay. Yeah, another Kira. Why not? So that I imagine this bird mode will kill our Razel? No, it wants to kill our Lefrith. Oh, because the Razel would kill that bird mode. Yeah. Makes sense to me. Okay, we don't have to worry about our Nahel Argama at the moment, because everything's already tapped anyway. So we can Unicorn and Overflowing Affection, or we could hold up the Hawk of Endymion. But anything they attack into next turn is going to trade anyway. They can Death Scythe next turn. They can't Wing Zero. Maybe we Demi-Garrison to get a turn of attack out of that before the Wing Zero comes down, or we save it for a Wing Zero rebuild. A post-Wing Zero rebuild. Normally I like to play the Overflowing Affection first to see if I get better options instead of playing the Unicorn and Benager. I think there's also an advantage too that Unicorn Benager lets us draw a card, though I'm not sure what, like, if I already have a Moo, I already have a Demi-Garrison, so I don't know what else I would do with that one resource that I would prefer over one of these plays. So I think the first thing we do is we'll attack, and our Benager is going to clear out an underground base if we pop into that anyway. So Razel first is fine, and should we be in a position? No, let's just go in. Razel's going to die to a Wing Zero burst, so... Striker pack. Okay, now the Nahel Argama could be good. The Moo is actually very good here, so let's do that. Let's just bounce it now. See, we left our options open to see what was going to happen with our opponent. So let's command it. Another great tempo play by Mulaflaga. Okay, now I am going to attack with the Razel in case we do flip into that 0-6 base. If we flip into another 3-3 blocker, it's not the end of the world. And we're going to draw a card. Love drawing cards. And we'll have another Unicorn for when the Benager comes back to our hand. We'll probably pitch, well, maybe a Kira, maybe the Demi-Trainer, because the Demi-Trainer might be past its life expectancy once that Wing Zero comes down. But I do anticipate our board getting completely wiped in the following turn. Just from attacks. Obviously, there'll be no Wing Zero. But at least their board will be gone too. And we're going to get to rush with our Benager again anyway. We can Overflowing Affection for another Unicorn thing or something to pair with our Kira to rush through to victory after that. Yeah, I think the Demi-Garrison's got to go. They have a Zawart. They didn't kill my Razel. Did that one go to my shield? Did I miss something there? They have 2 blockers. Okay. And a Wing Zero potentially coming down next turn. We can take out 1. And then if that theoretically drew... This would have to draw an Isle Strike. Okay, perhaps... Yeah, we use this because we could still play Unicorn Benager if we don't find that Isle Strike. We'll tap down the Zawart. They will likely block with our launcher strike. We will attack first with the Razel. They block there, we both get to trade. This is going to die to a wing 0 anyway. If they don't, we got that attack in, and we hit him with a unicorn. And yes, that would die to a Razel. Or do I need to be attacking blockers now to clear them out? Because now my rush units can't really get past them. They do only have 3 cards in hand. It's not unlikely that one of them is a wing 0. Well, they got rid of one early on. Or I guess that was in a shield. So there's only 2 left in the deck. I guess the thing, too, about getting rid of this launcher strike is if they do wing 0, it does clear out their entire board. Okay, then I'm less scared of that. All right, we are going to put the base down. We're going to arrest that guy. And let's attack. Let's not let them know we have another unit ready to go. They could probably guess because they know a Banagher's gone to hand. All right, very sweet. Let's finish that off, and then we have many opportunities to find any of the 8 units that pair with our Kiras via our 2 overflowing affections. We have plenty of stuff we can discard if we'd like. If they don't have an underground base here, we're in a good position. They have decided to do awkward attacks. They're trying to rush us now, so... But that also still could mean they have a wing... More Zawarts. Okay. Yes, they want to go aggro against us. So we do kind of need to find that Isle Strike, because we'll get to bounce one of them, and then attack through the other 2. So maybe attacking with this Lefrith was greedy on their part. So, all right, so let's see. We need 5. Okay, it needs to be an Isle Strike, and not the... Oh, no. The Launcher Strike will bounce one of these Zawarts, too. Glad it's not a Lefrith. Theoretically, if this unicorn had taken damage... No, because we still need to be able to bounce. The bouncing is what's key here. Okay. Let us... We only have 2 Nahal Argamas, so we're unlikely to find the next one, and we would need 2 of them anyway, so that's sort of moot. We need 5. We will discard... We can discard a Razel. We have enough. So, Show of Resolve, no, because that gets us to 4. And we're looking at 2 either way, and we're trying to win here, so we don't mind pitching the extra cards. We have 23 left. We haven't seen any Isles at the moment, or Launcher Strike, so 8 cards out of 23, that's a very good hit. Arg. Okay, we will discard this second Show of Resolve. Now it's 8 cards out of 21. Definitely a good hit there. Okay, if we Show of Resolve, we'll have 3 left. We need Show of Resolve to find us. Alright, Launcher Strike is 4. No, because we only have 3 left. Grr. Playing the unit isn't great into wing 0. So the Zords can attack us, so they could still do 4 damage to us though. I could play this Lefrith. That would survive a wing 0. Kill off one of their other units that won't kill me. But then this will die, and I won't be able to play with my 2 swingers on the following turn either, but I could die here. We had a lot of looks at those Isle Strikes or Launcher Packs, and they're all at the bottom of our deck. That is the variance that comes with this card game. I mean, some of them could be in our shields too, but we only have 3 left, so... There might be 1, maybe 2. It's unlikely all 3 are in there, but not mathematically impossible. Playing the shield could help alleviate some damage, because nothing can one-shot it unless they rush out a unit or play a pilot on the Wing Gundam that isn't a hero. I guess theoretically they could play a hero if they draw it. but that would have been the only reason why they wouldn't have played one yet. So a base could be better there, as it buys me more time. If they have a rush unit, we're sort of dead anyway. This lets me draw 2 cards, though. Wing cannot kill my unicorn. Unless they pilot it, but then they could just break my base anyway. Oh, the breach, though, kills a base. So they breach here. They rush with another unit, but I'm sort of dead then anyway. Am I overthinking this? What could I reasonably draw with 2 cards? Just having the extra attacker might be... If they have the wing 0, you know, whatever, I'm dead anyway, but... Which would be a reason why they would hold back, because they've got wing 0 and hero in their hand. But I lose to that no matter what I do. I guess except for killing the Slifrith. Then I survive 1 turn, but they have 2 Zawarts to block. They might not even attack with the Slifrith to maximize the amount of blocks they have to stop my attacks. Playing Show of Resolve over Corsica base doesn't let me double spell all that much more anyway, because I'll only have 9 resources. If I had 10, I could play 2 Kira Isles. I'm going to play Corsica base. Because I have this blocker. Okay, so we know one of our shields was not one of our 8 units that we're looking for. And then I'm going to play this Slifrith. I'm sure that was not very exciting to watch or play through. I tried to explain through my lines as I was thinking them. We will utilize a blocker here because they can't attack any of my other units. Maybe that was the mistake in playing the Tall Geese, because then they can't breach through. But again, if they had the... Hey, look at that. If they had the wing 0 rush, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Okay, they didn't have a pilot. All right, so we're not in bad position. We did draw the Isle Strike, but we also have the 2 units, so any link unit would have been... Even if we drew a Benager, we would have been able to pull through. So let's just make this easy on ourselves. Buy Zawart. Tall Geese can go first. Away it goes. And we'll let Unicorn go finish the day. They did have that wing 0. Reasonable they didn't play it on that turn because it wouldn't have mattered. Like, when the AI knows it's going to lose, it kind of throws a little bit of a hissy fit and just makes like spite plays or any kind of random plays or goes all out on your shields. Notably, based on their hand here, even if this Corsica base weren't a shield or weren't a base, if this had just been a random shield that went into my discard pile, we still wouldn't have lost. They needed that. They needed a pilot to be able to beat us, either whether we played the Corsica base or not, because if we don't play the Corsica base, the wing has to attack. Wing gets to attack. Well, if we don't play the Corsica base, wing gets to... They all just get to hit our shields and it doesn't matter. But this is the kind of thinking you have to do at the end of your games, whether you win or lose. Like, did I make the right play there? And I think I spent a lot of time thinking about that decision and ultimately discovered that it didn't matter which way it went. From my opponent's point of view, if they have the pilot, we're kind of screwed anyway. And if they don't, we're in a better position to win by having a second unit, depending on whatever else they have there. Again, it wouldn't have mattered because the 2... Yeah, it would have mattered because if we drew the Benager instead of any of our units that pair with Kira, we can get through. That's the one reason why it would matter, that small little edge. Because we knew we had the Unicorn in hand, and we knew we had 3 draws from our Show of Resolve and our turn draw to find what we were looking for. And we maximize our chances because we've only had the 1 Benager so far. So now, instead of just 8 cards being what we need out of 21 with 3 draws, it's now 11 cards because 3 Benagers also win because we played the Corsica base when we did, and we got to draw that card then. Are you following through here? I know it sounds a little heady to be able to play to what's in your deck. You have to find a way to play to your outs. You have to anticipate what your opponent's going to play. We didn't see Wing 0 come down at all, but this deck does make it... Blue-white in general makes Wing 0 less attractive for your opponent to play anyway. The high maneuver can be nice, but you're not often board wiping like you are against red-blue. or obviously any of the aggro decks. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Don't think the AI didn't necessarily screw something up because they didn't board wipe when they could. Maybe a little bit at the very end of last game, but we would have been able to win through that anyway based on our hand, which is one of the nice things about our deck. So a clean 2-0 here. You can see the power of this deck. We just got out early and reduced their shields very quickly, and then we got to do our top end to rush through some things to get rid of blockers. You got to see sort of a blocker heavy hand, you got to see a shield heavy hand from them, and we were able to get through kind of both. It's really about just putting the pressure on, finding a way to pull through. Notice how I mulliganed both those games. You need a very specific hand in this matchup to take best advantage of the changes you've made to this deck versus the traditional blue-white thing. All right, but other than that, let me know if you want to see any other matchups with this deck. It is a lot of fun to play. Let me know if there are other decks you want to see me play through and what matchups you want them against. Like, we are going to sort of explore the meta and see what everything has to offer. But if there are some things that are higher priorities on your list, you can let me know. That might affect what I record next. But otherwise, hope you have a great week, everybody.